Hello, Libra. Welcome to Zodiac Whisper Tarot. This isn't just another horoscope video, it's a divine checkpoint in your life. Let me ask you something right away. Have you been feeling like something major is about to shift? Like you're standing at the edge of something unknown, but powerful? If your heart just whispered, yes, then trust this moment. You didn't land here by accident. This message is meant for you. Over the next few minutes, we're going to unravel a cosmic transmission designed to guide you through one of the most pivotal turning points in your journey. Between June 25th and June 30th, the scales are tipping, and for once, Libra, they're tipping in your favor. There is an energy building. It's quiet, but strong. Unseen, but deeply felt. And it's calling you into a big break, the kind that redefines timelines, relationships, careers, and even the way you see yourself. You may have noticed it already, a restlessness in your soul, a rising urge to choose differently, to reclaim your voice, your balance, your truth. That's not a coincidence. It's the universe shifting on your behalf. The question is, are you ready to meet it halfway? For a Libra, the search for equilibrium is sacred. But what if I told you this time balance isn't something you need to chase? It's something that's being restored to you, through clarity, release, and bold, heart-led decisions. So before we dive into the cards, the signs, the planetary alignments, and your sacred numbers, let me ask you. What choice brought you here today? Was it a question you couldn't answer? Was it an energy you couldn't shake? Or was it simply a whisper in your spirit that said, watch this one? Whatever it was, your presence here matters. And I want to thank you truly from the bottom of my heart. Let me take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for your presence here. Every like, every comment, every subscription you offer brings you closer into the heart of this growing family, Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Your incredible support fuels this channel and allows us to continue bringing transformational messages to souls like yours, souls who are ready to evolve, elevate, and remember who they are. And Libra, my dear, trust me when I say, you'll want to stay until the very last second of today's video. What the universe is revealing for you. It's stunning. It's bold. It's yours. As it is said, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. When your heart is aligned, your light cannot be dimmed. The truth will always find its way back to you. Now take a breath. Settle into your space. Because what we're about to uncover may just shift your entire trajectory and awaken something in you that's been waiting for this moment. Are you ready? Let's begin. There's something quietly powerful about realizing that the chaos you've been moving through wasn't meaningless, it was refining you. The energy unfolding for Libra between June 25th and 30th holds a deep message. The tides of imbalance are retreating, and what returns to you is not just peace but clarity. You are stepping out of the mental fog, the emotional overthinking, the constant weighing of options that left you suspended between action and doubt. That cycle is dissolving, not with a crash, but like morning mist lifted by the rising sun. Slowly, but surely, you are returning to yourself. The presence of the Justice card reminds us that this moment is not about reward or punishment. It's about alignment. There is a kind of divine math happening here where every intention you've carried, every truth you've spoken, and even every silence you've endured now starts to echo back into your life. The scales are rebalancing, not just externally through circumstances, but internally, as your own values become clearer than ever before. This is the moment to choose what's right, not what's comfortable. And that takes courage, especially for a Libra heart that often tries to keep the peace even when it hurts. We are reminded here that integrity is quiet but unshakable. Doing the right thing even when it's inconvenient, even when it goes unseen, builds a kind of spiritual architecture that cannot collapse under pressure. This week may ask you to speak a truth you've been holding back, to walk away from something that no longer honors your values, or to stand firm in a boundary you once doubted. But as you do, you create space for true peace to enter, not the kind that comes from pleasing others, but the kind that radiates from finally honoring your own core. The Six of Swords marks a journey away from emotional unrest. It doesn't always mean a dramatic departure. Sometimes, it's more subtle. A thought you no longer entertain. A fear you no longer obey. A wound you no longer feed with attention. That's healing. The decisions you're making now, even the quiet ones, are carrying you toward calmer mental waters. And though the voyage might still feel tender, know that the worst of the storm is behind you. The wind is at your back now, not against you. Enter the Hierophant, a card of wisdom, structure, and guidance. This can appear as a mentor, a teacher, or even a moment of sudden clarity that reframes everything. It suggests you're not meant to do this part alone. If you've been praying for a sign, seeking a pathway, or simply asking, "What's next?" trust that an answer is approaching. It may not arrive in the form you expect, but it will carry the resonance of truth. This is also an invitation to return to what grounds you. Not dogma. Not perfection. But principle. The quiet daily rituals that align you with steadiness, whether that's journaling, prayer, mindful walking, or simply sitting in stillness for a few minutes each morning. That is sacred. Cosmically, Mercury's trine with Saturn during this window supports clear, structured decision-making. Conversations become more grounded. Ideas become plans. Relationships find footing or clarity. This is a favorable time for long-term decisions, especially around career or commitment. The energy says, slow down, think clearly, and act with maturity. The truth is, you already know what you need. You may just be waiting for permission. So here it is, you have permission to choose what brings peace. The numerology of 6 and 11 surrounding this period deepens the message. 6 brings harmony and healing. 11 is the master number of insight, intuition, and divine alignment. Together, they form a gateway, a sacred mirror reflecting both the external shifts and the inner upgrades you're ready for. And if you felt like you've been standing at a crossroads, this is a gentle nudge forward. You are not off track. You are not behind. You are, in fact, right where you need to be for this next chapter to unfold. And though it may feel unfamiliar, what's ahead is not something to fear but something to trust. Sometimes the hardest decisions are not the ones that demand action, but the ones that require truth. And Libra, you know this deeply. Your heart is finely attuned to the vibrations of fairness and harmony, and yet this very gift can turn into your greatest struggle. You pause, you weigh, you consider the hearts of others, often before your own. But what if this moment is not asking you to protect the peace outside of you but to defend the peace within? The Two of Swords is a card of sacred pause. It speaks of being at a crossroads, not because you're lost, but because you're aware that either path will change something. You're not confused, you're conscientious. But what you may not realize is that not choosing is also a choice. And sometimes, delay can keep you stuck in a space that no longer reflects who you are. The pressure you feel isn't a sign of weakness, it's the signal that your soul is outgrowing its surroundings. The discomfort is real, but so is your power to move forward with clarity. Enter the Queen of Swords, the inner voice of reason and boundaries. She doesn't cut to harm, she cuts to free. With her wisdom, you're being asked to separate noise from truth, attachment from alignment. This is the part of you that has grown tired of pretending, tired of shrinking, tired of explaining the why to those unwilling to listen. Her sword is not cold, it's clear. And her clarity allows her to act with both grace and strength. If you've been waiting for permission to finally draw that boundary, say no, speak your truth, this is it. Not out of anger, but out of love. Especially love for yourself. And yet, clarity without compassion can turn rigid. That's why the Empress enters this narrative as a reminder to soften even as you stand strong. The Empress doesn't chase. She attracts, she creates, she receives. She embodies the knowing that what is meant for her will recognize her without forcing. So as you move through this window of choice, remember, you are not being asked to abandon your heart. You're being asked to honor it. To choose what feels nourishing instead of depleting. To surround yourself with people, decisions, and environments that support your blooming. If you're feeling torn, try this simple yet powerful question: which choice brings a sense of ease and openness in my heart? Write it down. Sit with it. And trust what rises. Often, our intuition doesn't scream, it whispers. And when you tune into that softness, you'll know. You always have. This is also a good time to look at the things you've been postponing. Not just tasks, but truths. What have you avoided facing out of fear that it might disrupt the balance? What needs to be said, done, or released not next week, but now? Try writing down 3 of those things. Not with pressure. With honesty. Because each one you acknowledge is a doorway back to your own alignment. Visually, we are working with the energy of soft silver and blush pink colors that speak of tenderness with intelligence. Like the moonlight on glass, they don't overpower, they clarify. Let this be your mood board for the week: delicate strength, decisive grace. Remember, wisdom is not always loud, and courage isn't always explosive. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is make a quiet decision to honor what you've outgrown and step gently but surely into what fits who you are becoming. There's no need to justify your clarity. When you're at peace with your choice, the rest will follow. It's often in the quiet spaces, the ones between healing and readiness, where love begins to reorganize itself. When you've been doing the inner work, like you have, it's easy to forget that the heart doesn't always operate on the same timeline as the mind. And yet, here you are, somewhere between reflection and arrival, learning how to receive again. Not just love from another, but love that aligns with who you've become. The 4 of Cups appears when something is being offered, yet the heart is preoccupied or guarded. It doesn't mean you're closed off, Libra. It means you're still integrating. Still processing. You've been through seasons where connection cost you more than it gave. And now your system emotionally and energetically is cautious. That's wisdom, not weakness. But it's also important to know when protection becomes a pattern. Ask yourself gently, am I not receiving because it doesn't feel right, or because I'm afraid to feel again? The presence of the Knight of Cups signals that something or someone is approaching. This may be a romantic invitation, a heartfelt gesture, or even an unexpected reconnection. But rather than focusing on who or what, look inward and ask, is my heart open enough to notice it? Because opportunities for connection don't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes, they show up in subtle ways: a kind message, a lingering glance, a warm energy that returns just when you stopped expecting it. And if you're too deep in the fog of overthinking, or caught in a loop of self-protection, you might miss something beautiful that was meant to be felt. Then we see the Lovers, reversed, a symbol that calls for clarity. Love, at its best, expands us. But when it's misaligned, it pulls us out of our own center. This card reversed doesn't mean love is wrong, it means a decision needs to be made. And that decision is about honoring your truth, your boundaries, and your capacity to give and receive in ways that uplift your spirit, not drain it. If a relationship in your life feels uncertain, or if your heart feels torn, take it as a sign that clarity is not only needed, it's available. And in that clarity, you may not need to force answers. They come when you remember what kind of love you actually deserve. There's a quiet wisdom in taking care of your heart with the same tenderness you offer others. This is a beautiful time to nurture emotional stillness. Drink chamomile tea at night. Breathe without screens before bed. Write a letter of forgiveness to yourself for the times you loved too much, too fast, or too long. That self-forgiveness is not about erasing the past. It's about releasing the weight you no longer need to carry into future connections. One gentle choice at a time, you restore the rhythm of your own heart. The energy around you is painted in pastel blue and lavender colors of softness, intuition, and emotional opening. They don't shout. They soothe. Let them guide you into a space where love doesn't need to be dramatic to be real. Where consistency matters more than intensity. Where you are no longer performing to be loved, but simply being, and still chosen. In numerology, the number 2 governs partnership, duality, and equilibrium. It reminds us that love isn't just about giving, it's about receiving in a way that feels safe and sacred. You don't need to chase. You don't need to overextend. You only need to be present enough to recognize the love that mirrors the balance you've been cultivating within yourself. Sometimes, the deepest form of preparation is stillness. Sometimes, the best way to find the right relationship is to become the kind of person who no longer compromises for the wrong one. Keep softening, Libra, but keep choosing yourself, too. That's where the most real kind of love begins. It's funny how success starts to move closer the moment we stop performing for it. When we stop trying to mold ourselves into what we think will be accepted or praised, and instead return to what feels honest, to what resonates with our own rhythm, the universe responds. That's the quiet truth the 9 of Pentacles whispers into your life right now. You've been doing the work. Not just externally, but internally. Learning how to stand on your own, how to find joy in your own company, how to build something steady from the inside out. That's not just independence, that's alignment. This card often marks a time when your energy begins to mirror abundance. It's not about sudden windfalls or chasing big breaks. It's about creating a life that reflects what you value, not what you were told you should value. You begin to attract more peace, more opportunities, and more meaningful connections because you're no longer operating from lack. You're rooted in clarity. And that's magnetic. Then comes the King of Pentacles, a reminder that mastery isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. This energy speaks to long-term stability, financial wisdom, and grounded leadership. But more than that, it reflects a moment when you begin to embody a deeper confidence. Not because everything around you is certain, but because you've learned to trust your ability to create order within uncertainty. The king doesn't rush. He doesn't overextend. He knows what he stands for. And so should you. This is the moment to ask yourself, what kind of life do I want to live, really? Not the one you think will earn applause. Not the one that looks good on paper. But the one that feels like home in your body, in your soul. Because when you honor that truth, success becomes sustainable. You stop pushing and start allowing. You stop proving and start receiving. Temperance brings the final key to this trio: balance through integration. It's not about silencing certain parts of yourself, but about letting every part find its rightful place. Maybe you felt torn lately between stability and freedom, logic and feeling, effort and surrender. Temperance reminds you that you don't have to pick one and abandon the other. You're allowed to be both powerful and gentle, ambitious and grounded. This inner harmony doesn't just feel better, it raises your vibration. And when your energy shifts, everything around you does too. Take this as your invitation to reassess what you're building and why. If your life were a garden, what would you continue nurturing? What needs more water? What needs to be pruned? Sometimes, the most powerful form of success is saying no to things that no longer fit your growth. And sometimes, peace is found not in doing more, but in doing what truly matters. This week, consider creating or refreshing your vision board. Not just with what you want, but with why you want it. Let your images and words be guided by how you want to feel. Freedom, integrity, connection, simplicity. Whatever speaks to the version of you that you're growing into. And remember, you're not here to live a life that checks off boxes, you're here to live a life that feels like yours. Say this to yourself gently: I don't have to please everyone. I just have to stay true to myself. That one sentence can clear the fog of comparison, guilt, and self-doubt. It brings you back to your center where real clarity and real fulfillment live. The energy surrounding you now carries the softness of rosy gold and the freshness of mint green colors that support creation, renewal, and clear-minded confidence. Let them anchor your space this week, in your clothing, your workspace, your rituals. And if you ever doubt whether your path is worthy, remember, the most authentic lives often start with small, brave choices. Choices to slow down, to listen in, to choose value over noise, purpose over performance. You're not falling behind. You're returning to what was always yours. When you've spent time untangling the noise, the outer expectations, the old stories, the fear of being misunderstood, something soft and undeniable begins to rise to the surface. A quiet knowing. Not from logic. Not from pressure. But from your center. And that's where direction truly lives. In moments when the world pulls you in 10 different directions, your heart often already knows which way to turn. The challenge isn't in finding the answer, it's in trusting the one you already feel. Everything in your recent journey points to a kind of inner reset. You've moved through confusion. You've released what felt misaligned. You've said no to patterns that kept you small, and yes to spaces where your truth could finally breathe. And now, from that cleared space, something sacred is beginning, the return of your personal direction. But not just any path, one that honors all that you've learned and all that you've become. The most powerful compass we have is alignment. When what you believe, what you feel, and what you do all move in the same direction, life stops feeling like a struggle. It begins to flow. And that's where you are now, stepping into a season of deeper alignment, where every decision becomes an act of devotion to your true self. But before that alignment can ground, there's often one final question to ask. What part of me still needs peace in order to move forward with clarity? This isn't about fixing yourself. You are not broken. It's about recognizing the internal spaces still aching for validation or permission, and offering them your own acceptance. Maybe it's the version of you that made choices out of fear. Can you forgive them now? Maybe it's the part of you that's still afraid to be seen. Can you gently bring it into the light? These inner reconciliations are not always loud or obvious. But they shift everything. Because when your inner world becomes steady, your outer world follows. Direction doesn't always look like a 5-year plan or a dramatic breakthrough. Sometimes it looks like choosing rest over burnout. Saying no without apology. Honoring a creative urge, even if it makes no sense yet. Taking one step, then listening again. The divine is often found in the ordinary, not because it hides, but because it waits for you to slow down enough to feel it. There's also a sacred kind of strength in stillness. You don't always have to be moving to be progressing. Sometimes pausing is the most profound act of self-leadership you can offer yourself. To say, I won't rush clarity. I'll wait for what's real. And in that stillness, what's false naturally falls away. If you're feeling uncertain right now, let that be okay. Uncertainty is often just clarity in the making. It's the sacred space between old wiring and new wisdom. And you're allowed to be there. You're allowed to pause, breathe, ask the deeper questions, not because you're lost, but because you're ready to choose with intention. From love, not fear. Ask yourself, what kind of balance do I need to restore inside me in order to take the next right step? The answer may not come in words. It may come as a feeling, a moment of stillness, a wave of relief. Trust that. It's real. And if you're ready to speak your commitment into existence, take a moment and comment below. I choose to live in truth with my mind and with my heart. Let your voice be your declaration. Because when you choose truth, even quietly, the universe hears you. And the path ahead begins to clear, not all at once, but step by step, in perfect time. Sometimes we think we're waiting for clarity, but really, clarity is waiting for us. Waiting for us to stop second-guessing, to stop seeking outside confirmation, and to finally trust that inner voice that's been whispering the truth all along. And Libra, I know you've heard it. That subtle nudge, that intuitive tug, the soft resistance you feel when something's not aligned anymore, those are not random emotions. They're signposts. And you've arrived at the point in your journey where choosing not to choose is, in itself, a decision. The universe is always moving. If you stand still too long, it will choose the direction for you. But how much more empowering would it feel to step forward with intention, not because you're forced to, but because you finally gave yourself permission? You don't have to leap. But you do have to move. You can start by asking, what is one small action I can take today that would bring me closer to my truth? Maybe it's saying no to something you've outgrown. Maybe it's writing down a desire you've been afraid to admit. Maybe it's choosing quiet over noise, peace over performance. Or just 5 minutes in the morning to sit with your breath and say, I hear you, and I'm listening now. These moments, though simple, are powerful. They tell the universe you're ready to co-create again from the inside out. If your journey has felt foggy or slow, let me remind you, slowness is not failure. Deliberate steps rooted in clarity are worth more than 100 rushed moves. You are not behind. You are not stuck. You are exactly where you need to be to make the kind of choices that won't just shift your schedule, they'll shift your soul. And if a part of you still feels unsure, that's okay too. Fear is not a flaw, it's just a sign that something meaningful is at stake. What matters is not whether you're afraid, but whether you're willing to walk with the fear instead of letting it lead you. And Libra, I believe you are. So I want to invite you, as we close this space together, to make a quiet commitment. To yourself. To your growth. To your peace. Let it begin with one sentence. One declaration. Share it with the world or whisper it just to yourself, but make it real. If you feel called, comment below, I'm ready to step into my balanced, radiant chapter. Let those words carry energy. Let them be your first step. Before you go, please allow me to thank you deeply for sharing your energy and time with me today. Every view, every comment, every like, every moment you spend here, helps keep the spirit of this channel alive. This community, Zodiac Whisper Tarot, exists because of souls like you who are willing to do the inner work and show up fully, even when it's hard. Your journey is sacred. Your growth is valid. Your presence here is powerful. If this message resonated with your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. That one small action helps this content reach others who may be navigating the same questions you are. And together, we expand the circle not of perfection, but of authenticity. So take a deep breath. Feel into your body. And remember, the life you long for is not waiting for a perfect moment. It's waiting for a brave decision. Just one. You don't need all the answers. You just need to be honest about what's calling you next. And I promise once you say yes to yourself, everything else will begin to align.